Alright, everyone. We are back again. And let's remember the 5 sheet is a free tool that anyone can use to read past the misleading tactics that we see in most news articles today. Its objective and standardized nature allows people with different biases and knowledge levels to compare their takes on a certain article apples to apples. In this video, I'll break down the 5 sheet I did on this article. So, if your knowledge level or biases point you in a different direction, use the link below to do your own 5 sheet, or if there's another article that's more appealing, drop a link in the comments for me to follow up on in a later video. Alright, let's get started. This one's from foxnews.com. The headline is "They Write It." Cheney easily survives push to strip her of her House GOP leadership position. So this is talking about Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter. It's a bit of a war hawk like her father in the House. Wyoming's lone House member received backing from GOP leader Kevin McCarthy. So what is that title? Fact or opinion? I said that's a fact. There's a little editorialization. You could say that easily could have been more neutrally written, but for the most part, that's just stating a fact. So how do I paraphrase it? Liz Cheney easily survives vote to remove her from leadership position. Not much to say there. Pretty straight down the line. Alright, what's the known bias of Fox News? I said establishment right. It's still a little bit in flux, still trying to find its place in a post-Trump landscape. But I think establishment right is the fairest, simplest way to put it. Alright, let's find the thesis. It's in this third paragraph right here. The House Republican chair on Wednesday night easily survived a push by House GOP Trump loyalists to strip her of her number 3 leadership position. That, too, I said was a fact, pretty much just stating what happened. Cheney, and the way I paraphrase it, Cheney easily survived a push by Trump loyalists to strip her of her leadership position. Again, there's a little editorialization like Trump loyalist. Who exactly falls in that camp? Yeah, so a little bit of stuff that could be debated there, but for the most part, that's just laying out the facts. I don't think that falls into opinion category. Maybe we could have marked that one as other and put in a little explanation there, but I think that's close enough to just stating a fact that we can keep it simple here. Alright, what evidence do we have supporting that thesis? So keep in mind, this is not a very controversial thesis. This is something that, it's a matter of public record. You can just go look at the public record. So they just said, in a secret ballot vote, by the entire House Republican Conference, only 61 members voted to strip Cheney of her leadership role, with 145 supporting her. So they didn't even give a citation for that, but that's the type of thing we can just look up. You can go, actually, that's a good question, because it's not, is this a vote in Congress, or is this a vote within the party? The House Republican Conference. Is that, God, I honestly don't know the question to that. Is that a public vote? Because it's like a congressional vote? Or is it a private party doing a vote somewhere? I think that's a public vote that they did in the House somewhere that you could just go to congress.gov and find the vote for. Obviously not the individual people's votes because there's a secret ballot vote, but you could find the 61 to 145. I think that was likely just reported as a matter of record. But either way, they didn't give a citation for that, and it seems like the type of thesis you wouldn't really need to give a citation for. All right, what's the outline of this article? Started out with this first 3 paragraphs here. Cheney didn't have to apologize for vote to impeach Trump because she easily kept her leadership position. And then it says a little background on her impeachment vote. And then a background on the vote to strip her of leadership. So wait, that's the impeachment vote. And then this is the background on the leadership on the vote that this article was about. And then we talk about McCarthy, who's the leader of the Republicans in the House. We talk about him supporting Cheney. And then this is maybe the most interesting part of the article, and we'll talk about how they didn't do a great job covering this below. They talk about Cheney, who's followed in the footsteps of her father, Dick Cheney, is advocating for a hawkish and muscular U.S. role overseas, and how that is in contrast with Trump, who wanted to limit U.S. intervention, and how that does not sit well with everyone. Talked about how Matt Gaetz is out there talking about Trump polls, or these polls that Trump wanted him to share about how negatively she's doing. So, yeah, that's that sentence there, or it's that section there. And finally, it ends with her getting support from some of the senior establishment leadership in the GOP, Senators Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. Okay, so we get on to the named confusion, or named manipulation tactics here. And the only one I've listed is the straw man feigning ignorance. Because as I say below, it seems fairly straightforward, but there was this one notable exception, which is where they said that quote I just read, how she supports this hawkish and more military-based role overseas, the more pro-interventionist strategy. And then it talks about these senior establishment GOP figures coming to support her, but doesn't quite connect the dots. And it seems that that's one of the main reasons why. That was one of the main things that separated Trump and the Trump wing of the party from the establishment wing of the party, from the Mitch McConnells, from the Lindsey Grahams, was the foreign policy. How Trump, pushed back on the military-industrial complex so they do have a sense that kind of addresses it. Yeah. So this is Lindsey Graham talking about her. For me, I think she, on national security, she's one of the smartest people I've ever known. So that's him directly praising her for a national security position. One of the smartest people I've ever known. It's not like an intellectually rigorous position. Just say, like, wait, should we go to war? Yes. But I think that's the real issue they're not addressing in too much detail here, which is, why did she get so much support from the establishment? Well, she's a pro-war and they're pro-war. A lot of these people voting to strip her are on the less interventionalist side, and they never directly address that in this article. They kind of allude to it. That's the closest they come to addressing it, is that quote right there. So I think that's a little bit of a straw man feigning ignorance. They're not flushing out the full article or the full argument. And I think part of the reason might be because Fox News shares that same bias that the Lindsey Grahams and the Mitch McConnells have. They have that, establishment, corporatist, military industrial complex. Same thing you'd see from CNN or New York Times. Okay. So I think that was the biggest piece of deception in this article because, as I'm going to say here in the final section where we sort of look at the big picture, overall it seemed pretty straightforward. Wasn't a lot of manipulative language, wasn't a difficult article to follow. And the final takeaway, just overall, I thought this felt like part of Fox's deliberate move away from Trump's Republican Party and back to the establishment Republican Party. They've been doing a lot more articles just on basic social conservative issues, a lot of, just political correctness and uh, moving away from the type of issues that really define the Trump Republican Party and just going back to the bread and butter, just red versus blue, classic Republican, Democrat. And having this article here where it's about a success for the pro-war member of the Republican Party, pro-war / anti-Trump member of the Republican Party, and they're used, again, it's a fairly straightforward article, but to the extent that they use deceptive tactics, they are being used to help out this pro-war anti-Trump person and to obscure the fact that they're being supported due to their pro-war position. So that's what I got for this article. If you see anything I missed, please drop it in a comment below. Or, as always, you're free to fill out your own 5-sheet on this. That's why they are free and open source. Alright guys, I will see you next time.